You're listening, you're watching the Brew Crew podcast. I'm back again with my guys, Mr. Alex Rosas,
Jake,
and Mr. Ewan Lake.
Hey,
tuning in from the jungle, it looks like.
From the beautiful New Zealand.
Quite the plant shop going on in the background.
Well, I've been, threw some plants in the kitchen, try and make it look a little nicer.
All right, very nice.
Looking
Okay, well,
fresh,
let's start with what's in the cup. What's everyone drinking today?
I have a Nomad Play Coffee collab. I was down in LA and went to Play Coffee in Fullerton. I had an amazing experience. And they had this coffee by Nomad. It's a Columbia washed pink bourbon. Notes of honey, candied lemon, and stone fruit. And I guess they worked specifically with Nomad to source this lot and roast it. And they sold it in their cafe. And it was really good. So that's what I'm drinking. Drinking a little cap. Very tasty.
I'll go. I got a little latte here. I did the Ethiopian Kobe by Olympia.
Nice.
In origin. Delicious.
Very cool.
Quick turbo shot.
You pulled a turbo? I'm proud of that. Nice. I'm also
as turbo as I can do on the rocket.
Also pulled a turbo of a washed Ethiopia from Rocket Coffee, local roaster in New Zealand. So it's good. It's been
They're
nice.
in Auckland?
They're based in, it says, getting roasted in H-Town since 95.
Nice.
They're a roaster in Hamilton and New Zealand. Yeah, which is like 2 or 3 hours south of where we live here.
Very cool. Ewan, have you found a coffee roaster that you really like locally, or are you kind of just ordering in?
You know, I haven't yet. I've been ordering from different places in New Zealand. These guys have been pretty cool. Based in Hamilton, there's another one called Gray's Roasters, which is actually also in Hamilton. Been ordering from them a bit. So yeah, there's a few good roasters around New Zealand, but I'm still on the hunt for a good one that's kind of local to where I live.
Nice. Very cool.
We were spoiled for great coffee in Seattle. Just so many good options.
Yeah. Is the shipping to New Zealand, is it quite a bit if you do order? Because I think you've told us you've done group buys, right?
Yeah, shipping can be pretty expensive. So it makes it a lot more affordable if you can split it with some other people. There's a couple of people in the decent Discord that live in New Zealand. So we've been doing group buys for some ones from different roasters. Yeah.
Nice.
Hopefully you had the visitors bring some.
Did you just screenshot, Jake?
Yeah, I tried to, but it was loud.
Yeah, it was loud.
Okay, so what's happened in coffee news? Quite a few things since we last talked. Alex and I went to Coffee Fest. It was awesome. Got to see some friends there, check out all the booths. Might record some. We might superimpose some clips of some cool things that we saw.
Hopefully the clips look okay. I realized I started recording clips and I realized I was shooting in Canon Log, which is totally fine, but you have to use different settings for Canon Log, so hopefully they look not too dark. But it was a lot of fun. It definitely was on a scale of, if you've never been to a coffee fest, it's like SCA but very miniature. So it was a lot of local people, so a lot of local roasters that were there. But then we also had some of the big names like Makonig, Sonesta, which happened to all be local anyways. Mavum. I think, Jake, we should talk about probably the coolest thing I think we saw there was the Mavum all-in-one espresso kind of system. And maybe if it makes sense, I'll put the whole video that Jake recorded.
What is? So you push a button and it grinds everything.
Is there a laundry there now? Is that what I heard?
I don't know. And then all the coffee comes out.
That's exactly how it works.
Really devastated when the last status was
Thinking about it?
My voice is sick.
Oh, and it's just a
I'm managing the
it doesn't even
wholesale.
look like the bottom
So
of the
I'm more
portafilter.
like this.
No,
I take care
so
of
all
of
the
our
brewing is
relationships,
done down here.
hotels,
I can
restaurants,
show you if you would like.
people that
I would
serve.
love to see.
So because it's brewed from the bottom up, shot times are a lot slower, and there's no pre-infusion, or a lot faster. Kind of got your knockbox basically.
Okay. All built in underneath.
Yep. And then this brew chamber needs a little bit of a clean, but so there's 2 hoppers. Each one has a grinder, and then it grinds into here, and then it brews up from the bottom.
No
and it comes
way.
up through this line.
Okay,
that's
so
why it looks a little bit weird.
it's just pumped through a line. It's not. Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
It's pretty wild.
And basically what it is it's a countertop group head machine. It has a button. You click the button and it basically pulls the espresso for you. So it's almost like a super automatic. But the cool thing is underneath the counter, you have a Malkonig E65S that's grinding the coffee into some sort of basket system. It's tamping, doing all that, and then it's brewing the coffee underneath and pulling it up and coming out. So it's very similar to like a mod bar style machine, but it's like really sleek, super small. And the coffee was really good out of it. And it sounds like Anchorhead has that at one of their cafes. And a lot of their...
There's, not their Bellevue, right? There's
I think
location.
Capitol Hill, if you're local. And they said that they actually really like it. They almost sometimes prefer it to using like a standard machine. So I think that was pretty cool. Like there's a lot that you can do with that, and especially you just remove the barrier of you having to do coffee workflow, and then all of a sudden you're a barista, but you're building relationships instead with customers and all that.
Did you get a chance to taste the coffee?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Oh, yeah. It was delicious. And it's, I think it just opens so many doors. I mean, say it's a summer night and you want to do affogatos. If you can just be ripping shots on just such an easy to use machine, anyone can do it. You can plug somebody in there and just press the button and you get amazing espresso. That has never before been a thing. Like it's always been, you have to have some sort of technical aptitude and level of skill even to produce great espresso, especially if you're trying to brew for a large group of people. So definitely found a niche there. When we were taking our video, you'll see it in the video, but it is messy down below.
Yeah,
so
very
there is some room for improvement. I mean, you got to think like if that thing's automatically tamping down there, where are those grounds going? What's the dump system look like? There's
so you will need a shop vac for it, but it was definitely pretty cool.
A lot going on.
And then of course Maven also sells their like the single group steam wand as well. So then if you wanted to do milk drinks, you could just steam it on that. So yeah, pretty cool. I was stoked to see it.
Did you guys get a chance to see the is it the Sonesta ES1?
Yeah. So they were busy, so Jake and I didn't see it the first day. I went back the second day and saw it. Definitely a cool machine. Obviously, the call out is it looks like a decent, and I kind of had mentioned that. I was like, I asked some comparative questions like a decent.
Decent vibes.
Well, it's interesting because it's got some similar functionality, right? You can create profiles for controlling flow and pressure and things like that, I think, with a...
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong, does the decent allow you to, well, I guess, and you might have done this with your modification, but one thing the Sonesta will let you do is you can manually track a flow profile. So if you wanted to adjust flow rate and pressure and such, you can manually do that. And then you can record that as a profile, and then the system will duplicate that. Can you do that manually on the decent?
That's really cool. You can do half of that on the decent.
Okay.
You can manually control the flow as a shot's coming out. But the part that the ES1 does that I think is kind of cool is what you said about being able to record that and then just go and repeat it. Kind of as a way of like creating a profile on the fly and then record that and just repeat it. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And it's, I mean, it's like a lot more of a, like its physical footprint is a lot larger. It's more
it's definitely big,
heavy duty looking. More
It's
of like
80 pounds.
80 pounds. Wow.
It's
kind of, when we were texting the other day, we were saying it's kind of more like the modern upgrade to the GS3, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's nice too because I feel like a lot of the machines, they make it so that it's plumb in priority, right? So they want you to plumb it in, and it's a little bit hard to get to the water reservoir. Like on the Linea Mini, it's like underneath. With the ES1, it's actually right. So if you're looking at the machine, it's right to the left of the group head. You flip up a little latch. It's almost like filling your gas. You flip up a latch, and then you can fill water in directly from the front. So you don't have to try to like, move it around and do that. So if you do want to not plumb it in, you have that option, which is kind of nice.
Front-facing water reservoir, and it has a 3-liter tank. So it's not like it's a small tank either.
Yeah. Yeah, he was saying that one of the guys, well, it was funny. There was like an older guy who I think the concept of non-traditional 9-bar shots of espresso was a little bit foreign to him. And he was like explaining like, well, why would you ever want to change the pressure and the profile and all that? That's not related to what I was going to say, but he was saying they think it'll fit really well for like kind of those catering stand approaches. And really its capacity for how many shots can it do back to back. It's kind of limited. It's limitless. So sounds like they have put good thought into that in mind so that you don't have, you don't run into boiler has to heat up. All of a sudden you can't, you got to give people some time to wait. It does have a dedicated tea spout as well, which is kind of interesting. That's what they're labeling it as like a spout for tea. So don't know how practical that is, but that's cool.
Americanos.
Yeah. American teas. So yeah, so that was Coffee Fest. It was good. It was fun. I definitely wish it was a little bit bigger. Obviously, Coffee Fest is more geared towards like the coffee shop owner or someone who works in a cafe. So a lot of it is like, oh, check out this coffee cozy that you can customize with your brand, or like 3D printed little stoppers that go in the hole on the top of a lid, stuff like that. So it's not, I guess for me and Jake, there was a lot there that just didn't apply to us, but the stuff that did was cool. So,
what was the booth where they had Big Face brand? That like things like that where it's the manufacturer if you want to do cups or merch.
Yeah, Created Co. They're in
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had it, Jake, but next to them there was a syrup company called Proper Syrup. They're brand new. They're out of Costa Mesa. They only are doing wholesale right now, but they had a lavender syrup that was really good. It tasted really fresh. Like you really could taste the lavender, and they made like a sparkling lemon drink with it. But so many syrup people out there, but they seemed kind of trendy and cool. But they were there with the Created booth.
I missed that one. We were able to rip through quite a bit though. In like 2 hours first day.
Yeah, we had a lot of coffee. I was wired. The cold brew did not help. So
one of the other kind of updates since our last recording was Alex and I have been playing around a bit with testing freeze distilled milk, kind of experimenting with what that's been like. Alex, do you want to talk about kind of how you went about that process, or what your thoughts were with freeze distilled milk?
Yeah, so freeze distilled milk, in short, is you're freezing the milk. So you put it in the freezer, let it fully freeze, and then you're thawing it out, essentially upside down in like a pot in the fridge. And I think the science behind it is that as it's melting, some of the milk fat melts faster than some of the actual water content in milk. So after about 30 hours, you kind of have this like chunk of ice kind of milk in the middle of the jug, and a lot of the liquid has come out, and that's highly concentrated fat milk. I think this could be entirely wrong, but I think it's somewhere in the realm of like 30% fat concentrate of milk. So the fat in milk,
normal whole milk is like 5. Right?
I have no clue.
Yeah, the idea is that the first portion of what melts is all of the high proteins, the fats, the sugars, like all of the good part of the milk, right? And then the second half that kind of melts the last is more of the kind of more watery stuff that is still left frozen in the container. So you put that aside. Then you've got this container of like really intense protein, sugars, fats, like all the good part of the milk, right? And
which is what makes it sweet. Because like whole milk versus 1% whole milk, when you steam it, will taste a lot sweeter.
So a lot of the guys that compete at wood barista competitions and things like that, I think almost exclusively now, right, use freeze distilled milk because it brings out more intense flavors.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely what I found. As I like the way that Morgan Eckroth phrases it in her barista routine, is that it is very confectionery, almost like ice cream. And I think it obviously depends on what bean you're using on espresso, but when I was testing it, I did about a gallon, and maybe got like maybe 10 coffees worth of milk, almost like a dozen or so, and definitely like could taste some of that ice cream flavors, and those sorts of things. So yeah, it was definitely, it's a lot of work to make, I think, especially when you do it on a gallon level. But I think it came out great. So it's definitely worth a try. Sorry, there's a baby in the background.
What was the input output? You do like a gallon and you get half gallon out. Like, would you say that you lost about half the milk body or the volume?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. You do a gallon and then you you put it in a container in the fridge, let it defrost 30 hours, and you should have about half a gallon melt of that. Yeah. I feel like I need to try it a couple more times. I've only done it once so far, and I don't know. It didn't kind of work out so well for me. It tasted like it was too intense. It was just a bit too over the top. And maybe it was the beans that I was using as well. It kind of didn't pair so well with them. So I need to practice a couple more times. Maybe I didn't get the length of time right. Maybe I took it out too early and it was like too early in the defrosting process that it was a bit too intense. I'm not sure. I didn't enjoy it the first time around, so maybe I needed to try it a couple more times.
I'd also be curious to know how the New Zealand milk is maybe different from U.S. milk.
Oh,
based on what's the pasteurization process. I use, Jake and I now both have Smith Brothers Farms, which is a local farm here in Seattle area, and it's pretty good milk. It basically comes straight from them versus being like, middlemen and those sorts of things. So like it's their cows and all that. So I think that milk actually has tasted even better, even just steaming regularly. But that's what I used for, actually, no, I just did Trader Joe's that one time. But yeah, I know U.S. milk is probably processed a little bit differently than New Zealand milk.
And probably a lot more processing as well. So it'd be interesting. The first time around I did it, I think I jumped on it a little too early and I hadn't finished the process, which I did for the other ones. The first one gave me a really upset stomach. I had this 20 minutes later, this really sore stomach. Probably because it just tasted so different and it was so intense, I guess.
So one interesting thing from the World Barista Championship is Patrick Rolfe from April Coffee. In his routine, I don't fully remember it, but he, in his milk, he used lactase, like the protein, and he added it to the milk as almost kind of a solution to, instead of having to do alternative milks, you can add lactase to milk and it does something and breaks down the lactate proteins, which are what most people can't have whole milk because of that. That was kind of an interesting thing, and the way he explained it was cool. I think you can go on YouTube and look it up, but yeah, maybe that. I wonder if you could do lactase with freeze distilled milk, and would that make it easier for non-milk drinkers to have? But yeah, so that's freeze distilled. Jake, did you try it?
I didn't try it, but I was going to bring up Smith Brothers. They dropped me off an extra half gallon yesterday.
Nice.
And now I know what I'm going to do with it.
You should freeze it.
Because
They
a half
deliver to your
gallon, I'll get a
door.
quart out of freeze distilled milk, and then that's enough to play with for a few lattes. You know, I don't want to do the whole gallon project. That seems like too much work.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of room, especially the freezer, because you just have like a whole thing of milk just in your freezer. So
Do Smith Brothers deliver to your door as well?
yeah, so they give you
Yes.
a box.
I have a milk.
So you get like a milk box in front of by your door, and then you go into the app. This is not coffee related. Oh, it actually is. They do have coffee, but it's not good.
Related? Do they sell coffee?
They do, yeah. It's
There goes your referral opportunity, Alex.
It's like Stumptown, which if you love Stumptown, I'm
Vashon
sorry.
Island Coffee Roaster?
Yeah,
Stumptown?
Vashon, Stumptown, which hey, they're doing.
Tony's? Hey, they have Tony's. Shout out Jose.
There's something kind of special about the idea of having milk delivered to your door. It kind of feels like, rewind 20 or 30 years for when our parents were growing up, and, well, at least in New Zealand, like milk was, you
Milk.
yeah, container outside the front door, and that's
Yeah.
cool.
Well, the guy.
I texted my mom and said, I met the milkman. His name's Jamie. Like, she was like, what? Like, because we had some Milk Brothers when I was a kid. It was so nostalgic.
And it's the same guy.
Yeah, 30 years later.
So apparently, I saw Smith Brothers at our local fair, and I told him I used imperfect produce, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And then he proceeds to tell me that he's like a fourth generation Smith brother, and like his family has been doing milk delivery since 1920. So we signed up right there, but yeah. So yeah. Speaking of milk, Jake and I last night just got back from a latte art training session with a kind of cafe down there. Jake can kind of summarize it, but
Yeah, so some friends from college, their family owns Farm 12, which is, I don't know, I guess, it's been referred to as the Daru of Puyallup, but they're taking over Puyallup. They have a farm, they have a wedding venue, they have event spaces, they have a hothouse nursery, they've got all sorts of like community programs, and most recently they're opening a cafe, and they serve espresso in their restaurant, but they brought on a whole bunch of new baristas, and they wanted to get them, kind of like a consistent standard of latte art and just some barista training mechanics. So, we did what any coffee trainers would do and sent them a couple Lance Hedrick videos to watch ahead of our arrival, and then led a workshop for a couple hours last night, working on pouring technique, milk foam, what to do with oat milk or almond milk, or if you're pouring whole milk, what to expect. Well,
There goes the rocket.
there's
my
the rocket
session.
blast off.
There she is. So yeah, we had a really great session with them. If you are down in Puyallup, go check out Fika Coffee, opening next Wednesday.
Yeah, it was funny because when we were walking up, they were all like sitting by a table, and they had a big TV, and they were watching the Lance Hedrick video. And like Jake was like, "Oh yeah, I sent it to him. I didn't know they'd actually watch it." So that's kind of funny. They all now know the term "silky, silky, milky." So, which is a great Lance quote. Yeah, it was fun. I think it was obviously like doing latte, because a lot of these people were working at like coffee stands, like where speed is the name of the game, not necessarily quality and like good steamed milk. It's like Jake and I were joking, like, okay, we should raise your hand if you worked at Starbucks. And if they raise their hand, be like, all right, forget everything you know. Like, the shot does not expire after 5 seconds. But I think we walked out of there teaching them kind of like helping them get a practical feel for like what is good milk, like what should it be like, how to kind of get there, how to make sure you don't burn it, how to make sure that you don't like over aerate it. And I think being able to kind of just show them practically, that was helpful. And then also we just kind of started doing hearts, because that's like the baseline of all latte art. And I think it's interesting when you're in like a learning scenario like that, because you realize you see the common denominator for most people who are learning latte art is, I think, people don't pour fast enough on the initial pour. Because a lot of them would be like really hesitating, and like they're pouring a little bit because they're pouring too slow. it's not enough foam coming out on top, so it's just sinking to the bottom as their cup is filling up. So, like, one thing that I did, I think Jake did, was like kind of telling them like, okay, go faster, 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 and then there'd be a point where they would see where the speed that they were going at means the foam started coming out, and it would like click for them. They'd be like, oh, that's cool. So,
Oh, I created
yeah, and they'd have like, you know, just a blob or like a
blobs.
horse hoof or something like that. And like, but it was cool just to see how like stoked they were for that design. And like everyone was like clapping for this blob. So yeah, so that was fun. Jake and I were saying we should go back in like a month and see where they're at, and then be like, all right, let's go to like Rosettas or, you know, tulips. So
Definitely a great experience, and excited for them to open. We're definitely gonna have to go down there and do a checkup, see how our pupils are getting on.
yeah.
And I think that's
Well, I did
a wrap for
I did
today.
have one thing that I wanted to get our
Oh
opinion.
yeah,
So new, like we have to talk about new coffee gear. We talked about X Bloom. We have I don't know if you saw the new Melodrip thing. It's called the Colum. Yeah. Basically, it's like a no bypass V60 dripper that uses a tiny filter. It's literally like this big, right? So I backed it on Indiegogo originally, thinking, oh, this would be cool. No bypass, maybe similar to a Kono, also maybe similar to a Tricklet. I've been thinking about getting a Tricklet because I kind of like that idea of just trying that kind of full immersion. People really like the cups that come out of it. So I'm like, yeah, we'll do that. But then I thought the Column was very similar. I was like, yeah, maybe I should just try that. So I backed it. Then the more I thought about it, I ended up canceling my Indiegogo backer because of one thing, is I didn't want to have to buy another set of proprietary filters because they're basically like a V60 filter. I have one here that I'll show. It's basically this. I mean, the whole thing is they want to reduce waste, which I can appreciate, but it's basically this big. So like all of this excess up here is cut off. So you now have proprietary filters that you'd have to use with that specifically anytime you want to brew with it. So that, imagine running out and then all of a sudden they're sold out because they're only made by one person. And then you have like 5 sets of filters, which I already have between all the Aurea stuff and V60 and the C70. So it's like, yeah. So I ended up kind of like canceling it. I think it'll still be a good thing, but I think I will go get a Tricklet anyways. But I was just kind of processing through that. You guys don't have to have any thoughts on that. I just thought it would be kind of interesting to share. I did share it in Kyle Russell's Discord, and I was like, because I posted about it and I said, hey, this is cool. Some people were like, yeah, it's cool, I'm interested. But then I posted a little bit later. I was like, all right, I confess, I had to cancel because I didn't want to have to buy more paper filters. And I think that seems to be kind of like, yeah,
consensus.
I think, yeah, for some people, we obviously are in a space where people have decent espresso machines and like 50 trillion ways to brew coffee. But I feel like at the end of the day, are we at a state of diminishing return? You know, like we're already probably brewing great coffee. So really going to like make coffee, I don't know. So there's a lot to be seen. Is it truly innovative? Is it not? But obviously Ray at Melodrip is like a pretty smart guy, so I'm sure it will be. But that's kind of where that was my whole decision pathing on that. So
Interesting. I guess it's a bit of a barrier to entry for new kind of brewing methods, right? Where that, like, if you're going to design something that has a different shape or different size, you kind of need to have a different filter type, but then that becomes a problem, like what you're saying. I'm interested to know what your take is on what their marketing campaign was, because that was pretty interesting and pretty different from what a lot of other people have done. What were your thoughts on their approach to their marketing and their launch?
yeah, I thought it was, I mean, really cool. That's probably why I was so excited for it. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go to Melodrip on Instagram and you can see all their past videos. They did this like 8-part Instagram reel series, like teaser, like almost kind of like 60s, 70s-esque, like vintage feel. How about this guy named Cuphead? Was it Cuphead? Or no, Coffeehead. Yeah, Mr. Coffeehead.
Coffeehead, yeah.
And he like his whole journey he went on. So I thought that was really cool. That was really smart. Probably again was like 80% of my like. I think I was backer number 3 when the Indiegogo went live.
Let's be honest, we're a sucker for a good marketing campaign.
Yeah, like I wanted to be backer number 1, but then it made me like I hadn't used Indiegogo for like 3 years, so I had to update my address, and I was like, dang it, I'm not going to get it in time. But I was like backer 6, I think.
Coffee heads love a good coffee head ad.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm interested to see how that goes, but I'll have to hear from other people, not me. So, yeah. But yeah, that's probably, I think that's all we got for today. So we'll hopefully do another one. Some teasers of stuff we have coming up over the next few months because we're getting into Christmas season.
So much good stuff.
I mean, right, there's so many beans that keep coming out. Like Onyx is just dropping bombs. Last night they had their Columbia Immaculata Eugeenoides, and I missed it, so it was probably $200 anyways, but pumped to whoever gets to try that. I always wanted to try Eugeenoides. Jake has the Onyx Advent box coming, beginning of December, and Ewan. I'm not doing this year because I'm doing the Revolver Advent box with a friend, which is a little bit more focused on European roasters. I just wanted to try it, so yeah, so that's coming. So a lot, hopefully, more to come. Jake, sign us out.
We've got bangers on the way. Comment below if you were the one that got the Immaculata that Alex didn't. And that's all for now, folks.
Yeah, we'll set up a P.O. box if you want to send us like 12 grams. So
there we go. Yeah, if you want to send in samples for us to review.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Well, until the next one.
All right.
Yep. See you next time.